Welcome back to Garden Obsessed today, guys. It is grow room tour day. We're gonna go through all the seedlings. So everything that I've started now, it is not quite mid-March. So most of the things that I have started already fit one of several categories. They are either something that takes an extremely long time to grow, or they are a cold hardy annual. So you won't see anything like zinnias or cosmos, anything like that yet, marigolds. Those are all coming, and as you can see, the racks are pretty full. I do have a spot that I use for storage down there that these lights I'm going to move down, and I bought some new lights, so those will go here, which is currently where I have, when I first started I bought these little 2-foot lights, and I have heat mats here, and this is usually like my seed starting station. Those are sweet peas, so that heat mat is not on. They would not enjoy that. But once I get this rack set up, a lot of things will be able to shuffle around, and I'll have my heat mats back. You'll also notice that there's quite a few things that have excellent germination and quite a few things that don't have excellent germination. So we'll talk about those as we go through them, but let's start at the top. So I'm going to try to do this one-handed. These are my Snapdragons, and they look awesome. This is the first time I've tried starting them in soil blocks, and I'm never going to do it another way now. These were all started on February 12th, so they're a month old today from seeding. And I had nearly 100% germination. I don't know if you can tell, but this middle section is a little smaller. And I think part of that is probably due to the varieties. In here I have Chantilly, Madam Butterfly, which I believe is the center section, Potomac, and also some of those ones that I got from Revival Seeds. But these had the worst germination. It was still excellent. It was still like 80–90%. But I think they stayed a little drier because this is not a perfect tray, and I think it's a little higher in the middle. But if you look down here, even now that it's shaded, some of the ones that hadn't germinated before are now germinating. So I think everything was close to 100%, and I'm super excited. So on this tray there are 200 Snapdragons. I may have to find some space for that, but anyway. So that's the snaps. This tray wasn't seeded all that long ago, so not everything is up yet. So the Amy for the most part is up. The Queen of Africa was a little slower, but they're starting to come now. The Didiscus is just starting. The Nigella is just starting. This was some Agrostemma. This is that pink one that I got from the UK that I think is actually purple. I only had 5 white seeds left, so all of those germinated, and I had some purple, none of those germinated. So I think those seeds, you know, judging everything else has shot right up, I think those seeds were not viable. Then I have some Larkspur, and they're just starting as well. Now, all of these things have already been potted up from the soil blocks. So these are my geraniums, which are looking bomb, if I do say so myself. We have a couple of rosemary that I started. I don't know what this one is far out competing its siblings, which I'm not going to complain about. And actually this one I'm going to snip here shortly any day and get it to start branching out. Then we have some eucalyptus. I wanted to share here, I had these undercover for a really long time when they were in the teeny tiny soil blocks. And you can see that when I took them out, excuse me again, guys. When I removed the dome, even grow lights can fry your little plants. So I did some damage when they were under the lights without a dome, but they're starting to grow out of that. You can see now that they're recovering. So that's why it's important to harden your seedlings off when you go outdoors, guys. The sun has a lot more power than these little grow lights. So that is that tray. So these are the Lisianthus, and as you can see, those little fungus gnats, this is the tray they like the best. So I think a lot of the seedlings that I've lost were due to fungus gnats. But these were started in soil blocks as well, and I potted them up into, I think this is a 72 cell tray. And some of them are doing really well, and some of them less well. And then these seeds, or these cells here, were planted with Maltese cross seeds. And I've never grown those before, so I don't know what the germination is like, but I'm starting to get impatient. I think it's been a week or two. Okay, here's my little Fidalgo Roxa pepper. He's doing quite well, but I'm just gonna set him aside so we can go through the rest of these. And then I'll show you how I deal with watering these too, which they need every day. So it's good to have a system. So here we have some parsley, which did pretty well. I have some thyme, which had no germination at all, but that's okay. I'll just buy a thyme plant later. I'm not going to bother reseeding it. Some Greek oregano and some Cuban oregano, which I think there's one little seedling here that got washed off of the block, but that's okay. He can grow there. I may just go across the front here. Well, no, we'll go back and forth. So these here are my stalks, and I have some Korean mint at the very back that's just mini. You can barely see it anyway. But the stalks did really well. I had really good germination. Same with most of the Rudbeckia. These are all Rudbeckia. These are Cherry Brandy and the Gloriosa Double Daisy, which are the larger ones in the back. They're doing awesome. Then I just had a few seeds left of the Prairie Sun. Most of those germinated. The Triloba, not a single one, guys. That's the tricky one. And then we have Sahara here in the front, which also did pretty good. Next we have some Carnations. So in each of these trays, there's room for 2 of the 20 soil blocks. So there's 40 per tray. So I've got 80 Carnations going here in yellow, white, purple, pink, and a picot mix, which are mostly pinks and burgundies. Then we have some Phlox. This is annual Phlox. I had sporadic germination with these. So at the very back, the one that's doing the best is Creme Brulee. I would say those are 80 or 90% germination. Blushing Brides is in front of that. I had almost none germinate. There's 20 more over there, and I think there's 2 that germinated out of 28 blocks, so that's disappointing. I did go ahead and reseed it. We'll get to those. Then we have Dulce de Leche, which I think is about 50%. Cherry Caramel, which is 25%. The Blushing Brides is the one at the back there. There's 2 little seedlings. And then we had Sugar Stars, which I thought had poor germination, and I think I double sowed that right from the beginning. So there's, I don't know, maybe 80% of the blocks have germinated. Not the best Phlox germination, so I'm gonna get fresh seed next year. All of these I think were a couple years old, except for the new blushing brides, which haven't germinated yet. Then we had some Dame's Rocket, which had excellent germination on those. And we had some tall garden phlox, which are just starting. These took forever. These were sown on February 20th, and it is March 12th today, I believe. But these are the perennial phlox, so I knew they would be longer. And I tried, the last 2 years I've tried to grow those from seeds, and this is the first year any have germinated, so I'm ecstatic about that. Then in the back here we have a mixed tray, so there's some echinacea there in the front. They're very sporadic in their germination. There's, I think, 3 sprouting and another one coming out of 8 blocks. I have a couple of Verbena bonariensis. Those also are a tricky one to germinate. Excuse me, guys. Then we have white Orengium, which I think there's 3 or 4 plants. Some Silene, there's 4 or 5 plants of those, and then there's a couple of feverfew in the back there. They had poor germination. I think I only have 2 little seedlings out of 8 blocks. Then in the front here, Iceland Poppies. These had really poor germination. I actually double sowed these too. And I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 seedlings out of 20 blocks, but I'll take it because they're pretty. And hopefully the ones that I planted last fall will overwinter for me, which I've never tried before. The last time we had little snow, we had kind of a thaw there, and I checked on them and they still looked somewhat green, so I'm hopeful. Then we have some blue glitter Orengium, only 4 germinated, but they're perennial, so I'll be able to save my own seed probably next year and plant some more. Okay, next we have Strawflower, and if there was one that was worse than the phlox, it was probably Strawflower. I haven't resown any of these. You can just see the poor germination. This was Candy Pink. This was Silvery Rose. And again, these are all seeds that I've had for a couple of years, so, you know, just the germ rate is going down. This one I was disappointed in. I bought that seed last year, and only 1 germinated. Like, these seeds are 2 and 3 years old. I expect poor germination, but like 1-year-old seed, come on. And then the Saltine Mix was also seed that I bought last year, and it had probably the best germ. Now, I have Baptisia there in the back, which I think is also another tricky one. And so far, it also takes a really long time. So I'm not giving up on it yet, but there's nothing germinated yet. Then I have a few yarrow. The yarrow was kind of spotty germination too, but again, they're a few years old. And I don't actually need them. I just thought I would grow them and add them. I knew the seed was getting older, so why not use it? And then this is Rose Campion, which I've never grown before, and I tried to last year, and then I think I killed the seedling. I only started 1 or 2. And I thought the seed might be older and not germinate, so I did double sow it as well, and I think every single seed germinated, so it's looking really good. Then we have some Sweet William and some Dianthus. The Sweet William is coming. It had kind of sporadic germination, but the Dianthus was pelleted hybrid seed, and every single one germinated, I think, on the exact same day. Next up, we have those onions, which are doing really well. I won't talk about those again. And then we have some celery there, which is looking really good. And at the back is an ornamental oregano. So this is a tray that I seeded the other day. It's just starting to germinate. I just took the saran wrap off of it. So this is where I re-sowed those Blushing Brides phlox. And here I have some Astrantia, which I've never grown. Then I've got a couple of Bupleurum and some Lady's Mantle, and the rest are just various statuses, and those are starting to come up. Now here we've got some Gadisha. This variety, that was older seed. It was 2 years old, I think, and I got one, so I'm not surprised. This was fresh seed, and the germ's much better. Then we have Bells of Ireland. These things are hard, y'all. I'm gonna try Nicole from Flower Hill Farms method, I think, because this isn't very many, and a lot of this was older seed, and I did get fresh seed. So I think with the fresh seed, I'm gonna try her method and see if we can't get some more Bells of Ireland going. Then we have Bachelor Buttons, great germ on those. Some Clary Sage, perfect germination. And at the very back there, another straw flower, which was similar story to the rest of the straw flowers. These are Lobelia. They are by far the cutest seedlings. I just love Lobelia. And I save my own seeds and just sprinkle liberally over the soil blocks, and those will make nice little transplants. Then we have some Brassicas. This is Craspedia. I always have a hard time germinating that. You can see I re-sowed with fresher seed and managed to get a few. Then we have some Campanula, which I've not grown before, but have good germination on that. And some Nicotiana, which also had some pretty good germ. This is some more Brassicas. Here we have Foxglove seed. It was, I think it's only a year old, but there was no germination in that. Sometimes those pelleted seeds don't last very long. And then I had some other ones. This I got in a seed swap a couple years ago, so I'm not surprised it didn't have great germ. This one I think I bought last year. It had much better germ. Here's all of my peppers. So they're still germinating. These are the sweet peppers in the front. For the most part, they've all germinated. And the hot peppers are at the back. And some of the hot peppers have sporadic germination. So there's a few that haven't quite germinated yet, but we're still waiting for them. Okay, so this is one of the trays that is actually on a heat mat. Actually, it's the only tray right now. This is just kind of an experiment. In a seed swap, I got some ranunculus seeds, but they are older and there's no germination so far. So I don't think I'm actually going to get anything from that. I've got my tomatoes here. They're still sprouting. And I've got Orlea here, which is actually a cool flower and probably doesn't need the heat mat, but it doesn't have anywhere else to be right now, so this is where it's at. And then we have a complete failure except for one seedling. I had some really old petunia seeds that were pelleted. They were probably, I should have known they weren't viable. I think they were 3 or 4 years old. So I may just turf that whole tray. And then over here we have the sweet peas. Still waiting on those Prince of Orange. I think I'll reseed those today because it is one of my favorites and I don't want to be without them this year. You always have room for more sweet peas, right? So that is what we have going on here. Now, I think you'll probably also notice that I have no more room for anything. And I have a lot of things still to start. I plan on starting a lot of marigolds, cosmos, zinnias, sunflowers, a whole host of things. But the plan is, in a few weeks, I will be in that window that Lisa Mason Ziegler suggests for planting out cool flowers. So definitely the snaps. Many of these things, many of these things should be able to go out on our front porch to be hardened off and then planted into the soil. outdoors, unprotected, 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost, which will be the first couple weeks of April. At that time, it's also the time you should be starting all of your warm weather things. So there should be a shuffle happen where these things move out and the warm season things move in. And I've not tried this before. I've never started quite this many things all at the same time before. Like, this is my only growing rack, and usually everything stays on here until everything goes outside. So we've kind of doubled up this year. So hopefully that goes well, and of course I'll bring you guys along with me for that journey. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour. I probably won't do another one until this stuff is moving out and the warm stuff is moving down here. I might share when I seed some of those things, but that's it for now. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. I thank you for watching. We will see you next time. I forgot I was going to show you guys how I water this stuff. So I have my little water can, and what I do is I go along the front trays first. And you'll just learn, depending on your tray size and how big your plants are in them, you'll get an idea for how much water to add. And sometimes I have a little extra and I just dump that into another tray. But I go along the front here first. Okay, the front row is watered. Then I'm going to remove this tray, and I'll remove this back tray and water that in a second. Fix my little sticky traps. Now it's just a matter of shimmying trays. So the front tray goes to the back and the back tray comes to the front. And I'm going to go across this whole shelf, and then I'll be able to water this front row, which is currently dry. These ones are always a little trickier because they're a little wider than the other ones. Oops. So that's the way I have found it easiest to water these little guys. And that's it.